Man, believe it or not, Battlefield 4 in 2019 is still a really fun game. I know when this came out around 5 years ago, was it? I was playing this in its prime around 4 or 5 years ago and people had tons of problems with it. I don't remember what they were, by the way. I just remember people saying it's a dead game and I don't know, whatever. I try not to get into all that kind of stuff. I just play what I enjoy and keep it moving. But I was surprised because here we are in 2019 and I hopped on and it was basically a full lobby. Got a full game, got the full experience I used to get. I was pleasantly entertained. Anyways, today is not about Battlefield 4 in 2019, that's just going to be some of the background play. I actually put a question out on my Instagram and basically I'm just trying to get into the groove of using this channel more and making gaming videos because that's totally new to me, so I'm not going to lie and say I have 100% grip on it yet. But a great way to start, since we're still very early on here, is I just took a lot of questions from fans on Instagram, all video game related, and I'm just going to answer them here. It was very open-ended. I'll probably leave some time markers in the comment section and the description so you can skip around to questions you may be interested in. And I'm going to try to do this in a timely manner because I'm not really aiming for a podcast style thing right now. So first question I chose came from Unknown Human, and he asked, what do you think about Spider-Man on the PS4? And that seems like a very narrow question to take, but I took it because I wanted to expand a little bit. This question made me think about some deeper things because these days, like, age is starting to catch up, man. I'm turning 24 this year. Sometimes I think about how scary it is in 6 years I'll be 30. And even though here I am with a gaming channel, I'll be honest, video games don't feel the same for me right now as they felt in the past. That's why if you watch my channel trailer, it was really heavily based on retro games because I have a lot of memories, I have a lot of nostalgia, and I have a lot of things I would like to talk about. But as far as like new games today and things that are coming out, I'm not the guy that's spending 20 hours on every game release. I just don't really have the time or the desire really, like, to be honest. Anyways, I'll go ahead and talk about what Spider-Man had to do with this. I went and got Spider-Man on opening day and it made me feel like a kid again. It was one of the only games I've played in probably the last 4 years that I just could not put down. And that says a lot for me because, as you'll see when I get into another question on here, I've definitely, because of what time has been permitting, I've been more of an online gamer in this generation. And so to have a game that didn't even have an online mode, and to be able to just play through it for hours and have fun for all those hours, right? I wasn't just playing Spider-Man to just get through it. I was having fun the whole time. Obviously, the fight style is kinda, well, it's just like Batman Arkham series from the PlayStation or the last generation of consoles. I love that game, Arkham City. So the fighting was a lot like that. Some of the elements were repetitive, but I just couldn't get enough of that game. I actually sit here sometimes and think about replaying it. And the only reason I don't is because I shamefully have games sitting around here that I haven't opened yet. So I feel bad if I go back and redo Spider-Man and I have another game sitting in plastic. But everything was fun about Spider-Man. The story, the gameplay, the graphics were just gorgeous, my goodness. And I'll recommend, if you don't have a PlayStation or if you don't have Spider-Man, that's one of those must-play games, like at all costs. Go pick that up today if you don't have it. That's how I feel about Spider-Man. If anything, Spider-Man contributed to that feeling I have these days where it's a little bit difficult for me to sit through games because I was having so much fun with that. When I picked up a game like Red Dead that was going a bit slow for a lot of the story, not gonna lie, that was really hard to get through for me. So long story short, especially because it does not have an online component, Spider-Man makes me feel like I'm sitting back in the 2000s coming home from school and just enjoying a great game, which for many reasons, I feel like that's an experience that we don't have as much of today. So this is perfect to lead into the next question because Jimmy actually asked, what was the worst gaming experience you had? So as you can tell, Spider-Man is one of the best gaming experiences I've had in recent memory. And while I hate to bring more 2K talk onto this channel, in recent memory, the worst gaming experience that I've had was NBA 2K17. And I would have loved to tell you about some other game or some adventure game or something, but just being brutally honest, it was 2K, and it was because, especially while I was in college, 2K was one of the only games that I really had any time to play. And of course, I grew up with 2K, so each time a new one comes out, I have these expectations and I want to have a great year. And what really made 17 the worst experience for me was that I was coming from NBA 2K16, which was actually one of my best 2K experiences. I loved the graphics of that game, the gameplay, because back then I was playing mostly the association mode against the computer, and the computer was very challenging. Like, I felt like I was getting a lot for my time. So I opened NBA 2K17, right? I'm in my dorm, and I go straight to playing the computer, and I'm putting together my teams because I'm thinking I want to do another association. I have it on Hall of Fame. I'm trying to get the most challenge that I can, and I noticed that the computer is actually broken. And I actually did a video about this on the Dom2K channel. It's something about like the unacceptable glitch. You can look it up, maybe I'll link it. So essentially what was happening is, say I had Tracy McGrady, right? He brings the ball up the court, and because I was on fire with T-Mac, as soon as he crossed the half court line, the computer defenders would bring a double team. Now, if you're not from my other channels and you don't know how basketball is played, if you're going to double team somebody, it's supposed to be strategic because that means you're going to be leaving somebody open. You're not supposed to double in bad spots. But the computer just didn't use any kind of logic whatsoever. They just, as soon as your foot passed the half court line, two people came up and double team, and that left one of my players open. Now, that was cool and all because I was scoring, but the computer kept doing it over and over again like a glitch. So essentially, before I knew it, I was up by 30 and there was no challenge. The computer was actually broken. And so I think they actually ended up patching that because in that video I tagged Ronnie2K and LD2K. I think that eventually got patched, but overall 2K17, for a player like me who came in from 2K16 and I was really only playing offline, that was so highly disappointing because for the rest of the year, even if that problem was patched, the computer was just brain dead. They were stupid. I'll always remember that guys like Steph Curry and LeBron, they just did not play like themselves for whatever reason, whereas in 2K16, like, it was just so fun. It felt like there was just such a great challenge there. And then in 17, guys are like just dribbling in one place until the clock runs out. They're not running their plays correctly. Like, there was just no challenge. I could always beat the Hall of Fame computer because they just weren't, I don't know if they changed the engine or they changed the way they write code or whatever they did that year in 2K17, they totally ruined the computer. And that's the worst experience I had because I had such high hopes after NBA 2K16. So yeah, 17, no amount of nostalgia will ever make me see 2K17 in a good light. That will, for a while at least, be my worst gaming experience ever. Next question, Ryan asks me, one game you wish you were old or young enough to experience the prime of. As crazy as this might sound, I wish I had have experienced the actual prime of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I'll explain this. San Andreas dropped in October of 2004, which means that I was in the 4th grade. I hadn't even owned my first GTA yet. Like, my mom wouldn't let me play it. The first GTA game I owned was Liberty City, which was actually in Christmas of 2005, which that's a whole nother story. I actually didn't even get to play it until 2006 because they got it from my PSP and my PSP wasn't actually functional, although my parents didn't know it. That's another story, but so 2006 was the first time I really owned a GTA that I could play. So the only time that I could really play GTA San Andreas was when I would go see my cousin in Georgia. We'd go like every other month, every 3 months or whatever, and it would be like gold because, you know, when you're a kid and your parents won't let you have something, that just makes you want it more, especially when it's related to a video game. So I just wanted GTA more, and I could never quite get enough of it. So San Andreas was one of those games that I kind of experienced over time, over the 2000s. Like, I would say around, you know, 2006, 2007, me and my cousin, when I would go to Atlanta, we would play it on multiplayer. And so I always knew what it was and I knew how popular it was, but I did not own it. I didn't actually own San Andreas until I was in high school, and it wasn't because, at that point, it wasn't because my parents wouldn't let me. Like I said, I actually started owning GTA in the 5th grade, but I just didn't really make an effort to get it until around the 9th grade. So that's when I used to play the story mode and stuff like that, and it was already out of its prime by then. The PlayStation 3 was out. It was far past its prime by the time I got to it. But yeah, if I could go back in time, I really wish I would have been able to actually experience that game in the 4th grade because, especially because of how bad I wanted Grand Theft Auto and how good that game still is. Like, that's still a fun game to go back and play. Yeah, I wish that had played a bigger part in my life. Oh, this one's hilarious because I seen a meme about it. D Nuggets is asking, that's Denver Nuggets by the way, he's asking, do you have any online friends that have not been online for years? And if you're old enough, you have this experience, right? Whether it was the PS3 or the Xbox 360, you created your online screen name, you played your favorite game, you made some friends, and then one day they just never signed on again. Well, it's funny that this question came up because I actually still think about this friend. Like, It was my first friend ever on the PlayStation 3. My first experience with online gaming was NBA 07 back in 2006, 2007. And on one of my first online games, I played this guy. I don't know how to pronounce what he actually wrote for his screen name. I think it's Idris92. And I played him, and of course all this stuff was so fascinating to me back then, connecting online with people, playing somebody online. So I added him and we played NBA games online together all the time, all the way up until around NBA 2K11. He was my first friend on the PlayStation 3, mind you. He was my first online friend ever. I had no online consoles before the PlayStation 3. One day, I don't know what game we were playing, but one day we played our final game and he just never logged on again. Actually, that's not 100% true. He went missing for like 6 months or something like that. And then he finally got back online and he told me one of his siblings had dropped his PlayStation 3 down the stairs, so it broke. And it was like, okay, cool, you got one now, so we're gonna keep playing. And then shortly after that, he disappeared. The guy has not been online in a decade. I don't know if he made a new screen name, or if he, I don't know, I don't want to be morbid, but if he died, that's a possibility. And yeah, I have not seen my first PS3 friend online in forever, which sucks because I still have friends that I regularly talk to. I met a friend online in NBA 2K8, so that was over a decade ago now, and we're still friends. We still talk, we still play 2K together sometimes. So it is a shame that the first friend I made online has disappeared forever, I guess. Next up, I have a question that will actually branch off into another question because the topic is somewhat related, or at least my answer is. And OG Julian is asking, does nostalgia play a part in why the PS2 is the best console ever? Of course it does. And also, well, yeah, of course it does, right? But that's not all it's built off of. I know of things in my life and video games in my life that are totally held up just by nostalgia. It's like, okay, I know for a fact this game was not as good as people are making it now. It's just that people have memories attached to this thing that are so good that they can't accept it's not really what they think it was. I don't think the PS2 is one of those things. I think the PS2 was a great console. It had amazing games. It provided us with so much fun. But yeah, of course, just like anything that's like a decade old that we thought was great when we were younger, of course nostalgia plays a part. Like specifically for my life, there's games, PS2 games that are sitting on my shelf that I know I loved as a kid, and of course I can't play them now because they've aged too much, the mechanics have aged, games have just gotten too good, I can't go back and play some of this stuff. And maybe for those games, nostalgia makes them even better than they were, because part of what I'm thinking about when, actually I'll give you a specific example that I have on my mind. The Bionicles game for PlayStation 2. I don't know if any of you know what that game is, but I tried to go back and play it in November, and I can't do it, it's terrible. The mechanics are terrible, the story is kind of dry, but I loved that game as a kid, played it for hours. So of course I think of that game probably even greater than it actually was, because when I think about Bionicles for the PS2, I'm also thinking about being in the 6th grade, I'm thinking about being responsibility free, some of the friends that I was talking to while I was playing that game on the phone, like I'm thinking of a lot of other things surrounding the game as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of games for the PS2 for other people that are just like that. So of course nostalgia probably plays a part in it. But then there's also the fact that PS2 didn't really have like microtransactions. We weren't so connected to the internet back then, so companies weren't releasing unfinished games. I'm not gonna sit here and be the old man yelling at the sky, because there's definitely ways that internet has made games very superior to what they used to be. But there's also a lot of down pits as well. There's a lot of places that older generation consoles were better. So yes, part nostalgia, but can't take anything away from the PS2. It is definitely not all nostalgia. And the last question I'm going to take today, because I don't want to make like a 30-minute video of just me talking. That is more podcast. That is in the field of podcasting. Last question is from Tencho, and yes, this connects to that last question where he says talk about microtransaction and DLC. And this is one of those things where I feel like it's been overwhelmingly negative, and I've seen it affect game franchises that I loved as a kid in such a negative way. And that applies so heavily to NBA 2K. I did a whole video about this on the Dom channel, or it was a big portion of that video. And when you think about the things that VC has ruined in that game, I'll just give you one just egregious example off the top. I don't know how many people care about blacktop mode, but there was a year, and this was NBA 2K13, 14, where certain players cost VC on an offline blacktop mode, meaning when me and my cousin wanted to play, if I didn't have Michael Jordan unlocked through VC, I couldn't use him. Now, I could earn VC to unlock him, but I also needed to use that VC on like my player, my team, so chances are maybe there's not a whole lot of VC left for a simple blacktop mode. That is such a misuse of microtransactions. Blacktop is one of those things that was so popular probably back when we were younger and there wasn't as much online play, so that was one of the modes that people probably used. And imagine that, some of the players aren't even available unless you use the in-game currency to unlock them. What? The in-game currency that you need to use like everywhere else. And companies these days, they have shareholders. Shareholders are happy by profit. What's going to bring in more profit? DLC, microtransactions. Like, look at the new Mortal Kombat coming out. That's one of the few games that I still do solely local play on because me and my brother always play it on multiplayer. And the new one coming out, you won't have Shao Kahn unless you pre-order the game. And that's not the worst example. That's definitely not a terrible example. But damn, like what happened? Sometimes I sit back and think, what happened to the days where something like Shao Kahn would have been an unlockable character in the game? I would have had to do challenges to unlock him. That's what I think has really been lost as time has passed over video games. Doing these long challenges to unlock everything, actually playing the game, having incentive to play most of the game to get certain rewards. That's what's been lost the most through microtransaction and DLC. We don't want you to unlock all these characters now. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to put them in a $4.99 pack. And that's not going to be the only $4.99 pack you see this year. So by the time you're like a year and a half into this game, you've bought the game again. It cost $60 when you got it. You might have spent another $60 on it just through microtransactions. I think there's some positive uses of it, but I think it's been overwhelmingly negative. And I doubt I'm saying anything you haven't already heard already. So on that note, I am going to end that subject and I'm going to end today's video because I don't want it to run too long. I just wanted to touch on a couple of topics and kind of get this channel going a little bit. Like I said, you can tell from how I sounded at the beginning of the video, I am really trying to get my groove back as far as a current gamer, because I can make retro videos on this channel all day long, which I will do, by the way. There'll definitely be retro gaming videos here. But as far as playing like what's put in front of me these days and all these new stories and stuff like that, really trying to get my groove back, because these days I'm not even really enjoying playing 2K anymore, which is why you don't see a whole lot more 2K content on my other channels. You see stuff I've already recorded months ago, but yeah, I'm trying to get back into my sweet spot as a gamer. So anyways, hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.